So we are on the last true section of this unit, and it's all about properties. And the properties we're going to be learning are the commutative, associative, the identity properties, the inverse properties, and the distributive property. Okay, we already know the distributive, so that one will be really easy. The other four, if you look on here, looks very complicated because it's written with a bunch of letters and a bunch of symbols, but the truth is each of these properties is incredibly easy to understand. Take good notes and you'll be fine on all of these, okay? So, I have nicknames for quite a few of the properties. The commutative property is called the flip property, or at least that's what I call it. And what it means is order doesn't matter. If we have this one here, A times B equals B times A. What that means is if we replace an A with a number, 5, could be any number, and I replace a B with a number, 3, could be any number. What this means is 5 times 3 is equal to the same thing as 3 times 5. And we already know that, okay? So when they're using the term commutative property, all they mean is you can flip. There's nothing wrong with that. For the addition one, A plus B is equal to B plus A. That means the same thing. 5 plus 3 is equal to 3 plus 5. That's what the commutative property means, okay? So keep that in your mind. Flip property. It's okay to flip. Now, these could be any number. You could do 1 times a gazillion. Okay, well, that would be the same thing as a gazillion times 1. It's called AG times 1. They're the same thing. You can flip them back and forth. Doesn't matter what number it is. Positive, negative, anything. Okay? The next property is the associative property, which means order doesn't matter. So we have here A plus B plus C, and we have parentheses drawn around the B and the C. And it equals A plus B plus C, except the parentheses have moved. Okay, what that means is, if you have 3 numbers, I'm just going to pick 3. Negative 2 plus 5 plus 10. Okay, if I add the 5 and the 10 first, which gives me 15, negative 2 plus 15 is 13. Now, if I write the same problem, but I move the parentheses, I'll move them here. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 3 plus 10 is 13. Order doesn't matter on addition and multiplication. That's the associative property. Order doesn't matter. Okay, for multiplication, it's the same thing. If I have, and I'm going to shrink these numbers down to make it a little bit easier. So let's do, actually I can keep them the same. Negative 2 times 5 times 10 is equal to negative 2 times 5 times 10. And I change the order. I'm going to multiply over here the 5 and the 10 first, and over here the negative 2 and the 5. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Negative 10 times 10 is negative 100. And on this one, I have 5 times 10 is 50. 50 times negative 2 is negative 100. The associative property, order doesn't matter. Only on addition and multiplication. Okay? The identity property, it's called yourself. We identify ourselves. So what the identity property is a way for numbers to turn back into themselves. So they're split up into 4 groups. Group 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, just like this. Okay? For multiplication, the identity is multiplying by 1. So A times 1 equals A. So if we did 5 times 1, that's equal to 5. Whoa. 5 times 1 is equal to 5. 10 times 1 is equal to 10. And it will go on like that forever. The identity property is yourself. For addition, we add plus 0. So 5 plus 0 is equal to 5. 10 plus 0 is equal to 10. For division, we divide by 1. So 5 divided by 1 is equal to 5. 10 divided by 1 would be equal to 10. And subtraction down here, we subtract by 0 is equal to the original number. So 5 minus 0 is equal to 5. Identity property is yourself. It wants a number to get back to itself. Okay? Inverse is opposite. Now I drew a little number here. Okay? So inverse is kind of the opposite of the identity as well. What this is it wants to get rid of the number. So if we have addition here, the opposite of addition is subtraction. What this means really simply is 5 minus 5 equals 0. Negative 6 plus 6 equals 0. Okay, if you have two numbers added together and they're opposites of each other, they will equal 0. For multiplication and division, it's just the same thing. Where if you have 5 times 1/5, those are opposites. Well, that's equal to 1. If you have 5 divided by 5, that's equal to 1. Okay? So inverse and identity are opposite of itself. Identity is trying to get back to itself. Inverse is trying to get rid of itself. Okay? And we already know the distributive property. Okay? But the book and all internet sites are going to label it like this. A times B plus C equals AB plus AC, which means 5 times 2 plus 3 is equal to 5 times 2 plus 5 times 3, which is how we've always done it. So we know the distributive property. That one's not too difficult. Okay? These just take some practice. Use good notes. Okay, work on the assignments, ask me questions, but the concepts themselves are not nearly as hard as books make them seem using all these letters and symbols. Okay, you know what these concepts are. We just have to break it down into a simpler way. All right?